Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam amma ba'd. It's an obligation for us as believers to know how to deal with one another's mistakes and know how to deal with one another during times of trial and fitna, with times of discord, and to know how to deal with one another's differences when we differ in religious affairs, that there's a proper mannerism to not be quick to take one out of the fold of Islam, take another individual out of the fold of Islam, or to be quick to harm another individual's character, or to be quick to cling to individuals when they have made a mistake. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us for all of those and protect us from all of those different ways in which we can make mistake. So how does the Muslim deal with his brother or sister's mistake? And I wanted to read something from a very important book, Ad-Durra Adh-Dhahabiyya fi Usul wa Minhaj Ad-Da'wah As-Salafiyya. And this is a book which is talking about the foundation and the methodology of the way of the pious predecessors of the Salaf as-Salih. And the issue that I wanted to read from makes reference to how we deal with the differences. And when someone is taken off the Minhaj as-Salafi, when they are taking off the methodology of the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, the methodology of the Salaf as-Salih, the way of the Prophet ﷺ and his companions radiyallahu anhum ajma'een. So what are the criteria we should look at? Is it just something quick every time we see a person make a mistake? So let's see what Hassan al-Iraqi has to say. And this is a book that was compiled by a student of knowledge, Hassan al-Iraqi, and it was the introduction was by Sheikh Ubaid ibn Abdullah al-Jabri and Sheikh Saleh ibn Sa'd al-Suhaimi, hafidhahumullah ta'ala, two of our scholars from Medina to Nabawiyah, from Medina in Saudi Arabia. And he went on to say, وَهَذِهِ الْمَسْأَلَةِ فِي غَايَةِ أَهَمِّيَّةٍ. He said this is a very important issue of when we take someone off the manhaj, off the methodology of the sunnah. You know, when we declare that someone is no longer on the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. وذلك لأن البعد لا يفرق في مسائل الخلافية بين ما هو خلاف منهجي وبين ما هو خلاف فقهي. And he said this is because that some people, they do not distinguish when there is a difference of opinion between an issue that is an issue where there's room for differences of opinion, like an issue in fiqh, in some of the issues of fiqh, you know, where the evidences, maybe there's two evidences that are correct and sound evidences, and there's room for some differences, or the affair or the issue happens to be an issue that is that, you know, is a sunnah that is open for more room and flexibility in the opinion, or that the Prophet ﷺ may have did something or allowed something in different ways. So he said that there's a difference. A lot of people, they don't know that there's a difference between those issues where there's a difference of opinion in fiqh, or they don't distinguish between those issues which are a difference in minhaj, you know, in the methodology. وكذلك لا يفرق بين ما هو خلاف أصول وبين ما هو خلاف تطبيق هذه أصول على أعيان. So he said, and also, and likewise, they do not distinguish between those issues which are a difference in the foundation of the religion and the difference in practicing that foundation and making a hukum or a ruling on a specific individual. And then he gives us some examples. This is very, very important and very beautiful. He gives us some examples. And we'll read the first example. فَمِثَالَ الْأُولَى. So he gives us the first example. الاختلاف في تكفير تارك الصلاة تكاسل مع إقرار بوجوبها. So he said the first issue, the first example, is for example, the difference of opinion regarding declaring someone an apostate from the religion who has left the prayer and they've left it through laziness, even though they believe that it's an obligation. Okay? So basically he's saying that the scholars, the fuqaha, the people of fiqh and jurisprudence, that they have differences of opinion of whether this person is still a Muslim when a person leaves the salat out of laziness, even if they believe that the prayer is an obligation. So then he's going to talk about when we apply this ruling upon an individual. فَمَنْ خَطَى أَنْ يَرْمِي الَّذِي يُكَفِّرُ تَارَكَ الصَّلَاةِ تَكَاسُلًا بِأَنَّهُ خَارِجِي ثُمَّ يَبْنِي عَلَى ذَلِكَ وُجُوبَ تَحْذِيرٍ مِنْهُ كَمَا مَنْ خَطَى أَنْ يرمي الذي لا يكفر بأنه مرجي وذلك لأن علماء السلف اختلفوا في هذه المسألة ولم يهتم أحدهم الآخر. So he went on to say that differing regarding the person who has left the salat out of laziness, even if they believe that that the salat is an obligation. He said that so whoever makes the mistake and declares the person who says that this individual who's left the prayer out of laziness is a khariji, meaning that they are from the khawarij, they are from the people who make takfir unjustly, without the wabit, without the criterion, without the shurut, meaning the conditions, and so forth. They make takfir, or they declare other Muslims to be non-Muslims unjustly, okay, and for their major sins. So he said, whoever is calling another individual, because they hold this view that the person who left the prayer out of laziness, if they hold them to be a disbeliever, then it's a mistake to call that individual, the one who declared them a disbeliever, to call them a khariji, someone from the khawarij. And then after that, make it an obligation to warn against that individual. So he's saying that that's a mistake for us to, because there's a difference of opinion on this mas'ala, on this issue, there's a difference of opinion, then it's not permissible to take a harsh stance and declare the person who holds the other view when there's a difference of, there's some room for difference in here, and there's evidence for both, there's strong evidences for both opinions. To then go and declare the person who holds that other opinion, to declare them a takfiri, or from the khawarij, because they hold the other view. That's not permissible. And then to go and warn against them. That's not permissible. And then he says, and likewise, it's a mistake, the person who declares, the person who does not make takfir of the person who leaves the salat out of laziness, to call them a murjia. A murjia being the sect that believes iman or faith is constant, that it doesn't fluctuate, and that faith person is either a believer in totality or they are a disbeliever. Okay? And that Iman is in the heart, and your statements and your actions do not affect one's belief. This is the belief of the Murji'ah. This is what they believe. So it's not permissible to declare someone a Murji'ah just because they don't declare the person who's left the prayer out of laziness to be a disbeliever. And he says, and the reason why this is a mistake to do both of those actions, even though this is an issue which is because this is an issue of ikhtilaf, it's a mas'ala fiqhiyya, it's also can be a mas'ala i'tiqadiyya, can be an issue in the jurisprudence, and it also has to do with an issue of belief, because this has to do with declaring someone a believer or a disbeliever. So the shahid, or the main point here, is that because there is such strong disagreements between the Salaf, as he said, the ulama Salaf اختلفوا في هذه المسألة ولم يتهم أحدهم الآخر. He said because the scholars of the Salaf as-Salih, the pious predecessors, they differed on this issue, and they did not, in their differences, they did not have, let those disagreements between them, their disagreement on this issue, declare one another to be from one of these sects, or belittle them. And so this is an example for us to not be so quick to call one another because of our differences on issues that have room for differences. I'm not talking about issues of aqidah, issues of belief. We're not talking about issues of belief, but we're talking about those issues that have to do maybe in jurisprudence and mu'amalat, how we deal with one another and so forth. Or even when it comes to talking about a specific individual, that there may be differences, sahih differences. We're not talking about differences based on between Ahl Bid'ah and Ahl Sunnah. We're not talking about between the people of innovation and the people of Sunnah, no. But we're talking about differences between Ahl Sunnah about a particular individual and his or her mistakes. So we should not be quick to call one another innovators, or call one another disbelievers, or call one another fasiqs, or people who are wicked evildoers or sinners and so forth, without knowing these issues and knowing whether there's a difference and whether there's room for difference or not. And this comes with knowledge, and this comes with patience and wisdom, and not being quick to attack one another, and having our qasd, our niyyah, our intention to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That we have to remember that this is ibadah, this is worship that we're talking about. It's not a matter of shakhsi, it's not a matter of our desires and a matter of individualism of me, I want to be the big man, or I want to be the big individual here, the big da'i here, the big sheikh here, the big whatever here, talib al-ilm here. No, but it's a mas'ala, it's an issue that has to do with our religion, that Allah is going to ask you about what you're doing, about calling and declaring individuals to be innovators quickly, and having extremism. And Allah is going to ask you for being too sahal as well, to be those people who excuse every mistake, even when someone is clearly on innovation and left the sunnah, when they're on something totally that's false. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us success in this life as well as the hereafter, and bless us to follow the ulama of the sunnah. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.